Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with another Reddit story for you, and this one has an update. Title of this one is, Am I the Astronaut for Telling My Uncle to Stop Gifting My Daughter Extravagant Trips? Original. So a little backstory, when my sisters and I were kids, every year for our birthdays and Christmas, my uncle would give us cards. Inside those cards would be a printed out picture of someplace. For example, local theme parks, the zoo, an aquarium, museums, any place a kid would love to go. After we opened them, he would tell us that we were going to that place. He would say things like, "It's gonna be the best trip of your life." That would obviously make us very excited. Here's the thing, we never went on any of those trips. We never went to any of those places. Damn it! How did I know this was going to happen? I don't even know if my red flags went off, so I'm doing this. As a young kid, it would be disappointing, but after a while, I started expecting it and just going along with it. I don't hold any animosity towards him at all, obviously. As an adult now, I understand that he did that because he didn't have any means to buy us gifts. Here's where I'm starting to have a little bit of an issue with it. My daughter's 5th birthday was last week. My uncle gave her a card. She opened it to find a printed out picture of a theme park about 2 hours away from our house, and he promised her a fun weekend away. He promised her things like a giant hotel room with a swimming pool, all the snacks she could ever want, and tickets to every show she wanted to see at the park. She was over the moon. For the past week, my daughter has talked nonstop about this trip. She keeps telling me how excited she is and how excited her whole class at school is for her. It breaks my heart to look at that smile on her face knowing it's not going to happen. I remember how disappointing it was for me, and I didn't want her to go through that. So I texted my uncle. Here's what the message said. "Hi, your message in," daughter's name, "card was so beautiful. Do you think next time you could leave out the promise of an extravagant trip? The thought and gesture is amazing. However, I never know what to say when she asks me when this trip will be. She absolutely loves spending time with you, so I know the promise of even a nice lunch together would make her so happy." He never responded, but my aunt told me he was upset. She said something like he was offended that I implied the only thing he could afford was a nice lunch. I didn't mean it like that at all. I just wanted him to understand that she loves him and wants to spend time with him, and he doesn't need to promise impossible things to make that happen. But I can see why he interpreted it that way. And that's where I'm wondering if I'm the asshole. This has been an unspoken thing in my family's for so many years, so I'm wondering if I should have just kept it that way. I just can't stand the thought of my little girl getting disappointed so many times. My sisters and my mom agree with me. My mom even said she wished she stopped it when we were kids. Hadn't thought of that. So, am I the astronaut for telling my uncle to stop gifting my daughter extravagant trips? Before we get to the update, let's talk about this for a minute. I think there are 2 routes that you can go with here. How old is the kid? Let's get into that. The kid is my daughter's 5th birthday. She's 5? She's 5. Okay. I was gonna say the 2 different routes. One of them is talk to her. Explain to her how it was when you were a kid and just tell her not to get her hopes up. I don't know that a 5-year-old is going to have the self-control to be able to do that. And your uncle forcing you into that position to have to do that sucks anyway. I understand why he's doing what he's doing. It doesn't make it okay. Doesn't make it okay at all. And this is a repetitive thing. This is not like a one-time thing. This is 100% of the time. It works every time. It's like, dude, just put $5 in a card and call it good, or just give her a card and say happy birthday. If they know you can't afford it, they aren't going to judge you for it. It's okay. It's okay. But gifting someone disappointment is a negative. You're gifting someone a negative. You're gifting them a cost. There is a cost for that. It's not a positive. And he's an asshole for doing that. Right now, it's hard for me to believe that he has any real intention of doing this because it's chronic. Because he's done this 100 times, if not more, and never follows through. It's hard for me to take that seriously and believe that he has any intention of actually doing this. So him doing this, knowing that there's a 99.99999 continuum % of him not following through with it, I think makes him a real shit human being. Yeah, gifting heartache to a 5-year-old. Cool, bro. Don't come to the party, man. If you're going to be there, you're going to do that, then don't go. It's not a hard thing to do. And him putting you in that position where you have to, I get it. I'd feel terrible. And if your dad now, Ellen, started trying to, make promises to your children, you'd be in this position where you're like, I don't want them to go through that. It's obviously left scars for you. OP has scars from this. It has gotten over it, but still, it's still a thing. It's a shit thing to do. I don't know how to handle this, OP. It'd be tough to explain to a 5-year-old, but I think if you could go back in time, you probably wish that your mom would have explained it to you. so that you didn't have to go through with that. All right, let's get into the update. Update 2 days later. Thanks to everyone for your feedback on my last post. A lot of people asked me why I was being so nice to my uncle, and honestly, I think I underestimated how weird it was because it's been so normalized in my family. I didn't want to cause drama, so I went about it as non-confrontational as possible. I agree now I should have been more direct. Another concern a lot of you had was that I allowed this to happen to my daughter previously. That is not true. This is the first time he promised her one of those trips. That's why I decided to say something so this doesn't become a recurring thing. Here's the update. I tried to call my uncle twice, but he didn't answer. I got through to my aunt and explained everything to her, how many times he did this to my siblings and I, and how often we were disappointed. I told her my daughter was so excited and that if they were actually planning to take her on this trip, I would apologize. She didn't take that well. She told me I was creating unnecessary drama and that my daughter and I are acting entitled to expect them to drop everything to go on this trip.
Entitled?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I am entitled for expecting you to follow through on something that you said you would do. All right, so going through the aunt isn't going to fix everything. Noted. I said, how dare you say that? She didn't imagine this trip in her mind and then expect you to take her. You promised her this trip. Her disappointment is not entitlement. It's not my job to make sure a grown man feels secure in himself, and it's a shame my family spent so long coddling him. I was so mad I just hung up. I don't feel any ounce of guilt for setting my boundary anymore. For everyone asking if I can take my daughter on the trip, unfortunately that theme park closes for the season this month, but I surprised her with something even better. After the phone call with my aunt, my partner and I decided to book a trip to Disneyland. Hell yeah. It sounds crazy and impulsive, but we've been wanting to plan this for a while now and decided it's the perfect time. My kid is entitled to an extravagant trip. Last night, we sat her down and explained that her uncle won't be able to take her on the trip. I tried to be as honest as possible without confusing her. She was unsurprisingly upset and had lots of questions. After we answered them all, I told her not to worry because mom and dad are taking her somewhere instead. When she found out it was Disney, she was over the moon. She spent all day deciding which Minnie Mouse stuffy she wants to take with her. I told her to tell her class her trip got upgraded. All things considered, it's a happy ending. I know I won't always be able to protect her from disappointment, but I sure as hell will do my best. She's getting that giant hotel room she was promised. Cool. Yeah, good for OP. That is amazing. That is really, really cool. And yeah, the concern that I had there was, yeah, you're not going to be able to protect her from all this kind of stuff moving forward. So maybe this sets the bar a little bit at a crazy level, but OP knows that. And I think this is probably not just about her kid. This is about everything she went through as well. And this is her celebrating the end of putting up with that shit. And I get it. I get it. And the way that she went about handling this with the aunt and drawing the line in the sand and saying no more, it will prevent this from ever happening with her daughter again, which is great. This is what OP's mom should have done a long time ago. And I think OP's mom should have been involved here as well. OP having to go to bat for her daughter, and OP's mom at one point saying, I wish I would have stood up for you back in the day, but then not even standing up here and calling her brother and being like, what the hell are you doing to my granddaughter? You dick. No, she just said, I wish I would have done something, and then didn't do anything. Cool. I feel like she should have been involved, probably still can get involved here to reinforce your boundary, and that would be extremely helpful, especially because the uncle has the aunt brainwashed in this whole thing too. So yeah, aunt and uncle, we're going there. Ask on one. Heartbreak is not a gift. Disappointment, not a gift. That's a negative. Don't promise things you can't follow through on. It would mean so much more to someone to do something incredibly small than to do something that had a negative, right? I mean, there's zero. Nothing would mean more than the negative. No pain, better than pain. It's pretty easy to figure out here.